What's up, Movement Masters? It's Shawn Myszka, Movement Master and OptimizeMovement.com, coming to you with another movement lesson. And in today's movement lesson, I wanted to explore a topic and try to make something more abundantly clear to you. A given certainty within this topic, which I feel many people do not seem to fully grasp. This topic, as you can tell from the title, is the idea and concept that movement skill acquisition never ends. Obviously, here at Movement Mastery, we've spent a great deal of time in the past covering topics related to the processes of skill acquisition and motor learning, namely the processes and steps towards developing new skill or greater skill and refinement of it, as well as the various theories which exist to explain the dynamics of this skill acquisition. If you will recall, there are really two main theories that we have that we can use to help uncover and understand what's going on here. The first, the more traditional thought process of Fitz and Posner's stages of motor learning. The second is the often less discussed Newell model of the stages of motor control, which expanded upon many of the thoughts from Nikolai Bernstein. No matter which school of thought you adhere to, either theory proposes that the realization and existence in a third and final stage of motor learning is where an athlete will either find him or herself in an autonomous stage, such as in the Fitz and Posner outlook, or in an optimization stage, such as in the Newell model. In the Fitz and Posner outlook, the autonomous stage is synonymous with its name. Movement patterns of the skill are almost automatic and habitual, as they are now placed in the subconscious control. Of course, with this also comes very few errors and less overall motor performance variability. In the Newell model, on the other hand, the optimization of the movement patterns within the skill occur. The patterns then are characterized by fluidity and efficiency, as well as a certain increased adaptability to the constraints placed on the athlete by the environment or changes to it. The biodynamic structure of that movement solution is stable but yet flexible. In any event, it seems as though many movement professionals seem to think that all of our work is done once an athlete has reached this third and final stage of either respective model. However, is this really the case? Is skill acquisition ever complete? Well, quite simply, I do not believe that this can be the case at all. Regardless of how masterful and how skilled the athlete becomes within the context of the sport, I do not believe that skill acquisition has ever fully ended. The reason may be purely theoretical. However, I also believe you will find that it's almost indisputable. With either model, obviously an athlete who is increasing in skill is also increasing in proficiency, authenticity, and virtuosity in the movement skill at hand. And he or she will also be gaining attunement to the adaptability of the typical problems within the sport environment context. And of course, this is what we're after. So much so that the athlete then is able to have full control and ownership of their movement solution in the nature that they can begin to detect and correct errors. They can start to more fully understand affordances for action, as well as physically begin to exploit their own specific motor potential during the technical execution of the respective movement patterns within the movement solution. However, part of the main reason that Nikolai Bernstein once stated that optimal practice for movement skills should be repetition without repetition is not only that no two problems within sport are ever identical in regards to the changes they elicit within the perceptual motor landscape, but additionally, on top of this, that the athlete is never the same either. Thus, if the athlete isn't the same, the technique is never constant because the athlete never is as well. Their specific motor potential and their work capacity is always changing. The athlete physically will never be the same as they were in that given moment in time of any given rep. Things change. The athlete ages. He or she gets stronger here and weaker there. More reliant on one aspect of the biodynamic structure of the movement skill over here and less reliant on other aspects or factors and components of the human movement solution over here. Okay? These things become under greater control as the athlete gains skill. But that doesn't mean that that skill acquisition and attainment ever wipes out these realities completely. Therefore, the organization, the control, and the coordination of the emergent movement solution will be based on these constantly changing dynamic relationships between the constraints present within all three main organizational factors of the sport environment, or the sporting problem, the task, the environment itself, and the organism, him or herself. Therefore, the optimal movement solution can only be defined by looking at the representation of each and the constraints associated and attached to each at that given moment in time. And I know that some of this seems pretty outlandish to think about. And of course, probably only applicable to a very small population of athletes who we will ever all get an opportunity to work with. However, we must think about this constant pursuit of movement skill acquisition. It's never fully completed. It's never ending. Perfection is the goal, but it's never the reality. So full optimization and movement mastery isn't so much in the full realization of the development of a skill that no longer needs to be addressed or further refined. Instead, it's in the constant refinement per the requirements based on the constraints of the athlete, the environment, and the task at that time. Therefore, no matter how solidified a movement pattern becomes, no matter how developed the skill is and robust it is in its application, there will always be a further evolution of the biodynamic structure of that sport movement skill and its solution needed and required at any respective level of motor learning. Hopefully that all makes some sense to you, and you can start to begin to see the importance in our reasoning for discussing it, as well as attempting to understand it. So for another movement lesson, this has been Shawn Myszka, Movement Master and OptimizeMovement.com. I'll talk to you guys on the flip side, and until then, let's continue to master the art of optimizing movement.